Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Boxing. I'm Leti.
I'm LB.
And let's get into the fights this weekend.
Let's get it.
Man, last weekend we kind of had a dry weekend with fights. This weekend we have Filipino boxer Mark Magsayo versus Rey Vargas out of Mexico. What are your thoughts on this fight?
Well, the more I think about this fight, and the more I look at them, I look at their previous opponents and I watch, I went back and watched their fights. The more that I see this fight is like a 50-50 fight. You know what I mean? And it's always good when you got a 50-50 fight and you don't know who's going to win. I even went and checked the betting odds, and the betting odds even had it, real close. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a good fight. And just to talk about, that's just the main event, but the card itself is loaded with talent. We got your boy Brandon Figueroa. We got him returning on the undercard. We also got Frank Martin on the undercard. Fire. Yep, Frank Martin, southpaw, trained by the legendary, I'm calling him legendary already, Derrick James.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Legendary trainer of the year. You know what I mean? So we get to see him back in the ring too. So the card is loaded, top to bottom.
Yeah.
But yeah, to kind of talk about some of the fighters, Mark Magsayo, he is from the Philippines. He's also signed with Pacquiao Promotions.
Yeah, and is the only Filipino boxer right now with the belt.
Yeah, he's currently a champion. So definitely the Philippines were happy to see him win.
Shout out to the Philippines.
Yeah, they were definitely happy to see him win that championship against Gary Russell.
Yep.
Now, go ahead.
I mean, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to start off.
First.
Let me just say that I've been back and forth with who I think is going to win. Had you have asked me maybe yesterday, I was like, oh, okay, I think Vargas is going to take it.
You said that.
And then I was kind of replaying some of Mark Magsayo's fights, and I was like, oh, shit, at this point, I don't know. I don't know who's going to win. I feel like if Vargas sticks to going to the body a lot more on Magsayo, I think he can probably, I would lean to him if he can stay, getting to the body, because one of his last fights that I saw is he was pretty good with that. He kept going to the body against Baez, and it looked like he was hurting him. So yeah, I guess I would be leaning a little bit more towards Vargas if he stays dedicated with going to the body. And shit, in the conference, he looked really confident. Oh, yeah. He looked confident. He was talking his shit without talking his shit. Like, it was subtle that if you could understand the Spanish that he was talking, it's like he was kind of throwing a little bit of shade, but
especially when that part when he said, I can see that, pretty much that you're a little nervous or something by adding all the extra people. It sounds like you're taking me very serious or something like that, or you're kind of. Did he say scared? I can't remember.
he said you know that I'm not just an average fighter because you added some Filipinos to your boxing camp and you added new people. So. But
yeah, you talked about him being confident, and that's exactly how I expect him to be confident. I mean. He's a previous champion, so he's already been there, done that. Mark Magsayo just won, his first championship. And, there was a lot of controversy behind that. I mean, if you didn't watch the last fight, he had a fight with Gary Russell, who was, at the time, it was the longest reigning champion in boxing. If you watch the fight, the first 4 rounds, pretty competitive. In the first 4 rounds, I would say that Mark Magsayo had the... I would say that was his best moments of the fight. Now, after the 4th round, Gary Russell, he tore his shoulder and he didn't throw it for the rest of the fight. But you want to go ahead and give
No, I'm glad you actually brought that up, because another thing I was going to say is I think if Mark Magsayo fought the way he did that day against Russell, towards the end of the rounds, I wasn't so impressed because Vargas does pretty good with using his jab to keep his opponents away and keep them out. And I feel like Gary's hand, with it being hurt, that he was still keeping Mark Magsayo out. So I didn't see too much from Mark towards the end of the fight.
and to kind of talk. I mean, I know we're talking about Mark Magsayo, but to talk about what a performance that was, by Gary Russell, even though. You know what I mean? For him to fight for 8 rounds with one arm and he was still in the fight. You know what I mean? Yeah. Many people thought that Gary Russell was still in the fight, or some people thought that he won the fight. I personally thought that that he won the fight. But you know, he was able to be successful just with one, you know, with one arm. You know what I mean? And you know, he was giving Mark Magsayo problems. But you know, he was Mark Magsayo did get the victory, and like you said, you know, if Vargas goes to the body, he definitely could have some success. I mean, we saw the fight with Mark Magsayo and Cejas. And Cejas, you know, he made it a point to go to the body throughout the fight, and you could see that it was wearing on him, and it was tiring him out, you know, and he ended up dropping him as a result.
Yeah, I think it was like round 5 or something. He was gassed
out.
Yeah,
and he dropped him.
But not to take nothing away from Mark Magsayo, he's a great fighter.
Yeah, he's a good fighter.
And I think that I would say that the times that I've seen Vargas go down has been like a chin. Yeah. So I don't know how strong his chin is. So if, again, Mark Magsayo can, you know, get those straight, clean hits to the face, he might take the victory. So guys, I don't know. Again, it could go both ways.
And the thing is, and to kind of go about that, like exactly, we've seen both fighters get dropped and get up and you know, and win the fight. We've seen Vargas get dropped, and he ended up, you know, still you know, bouncing back and winning a, you know, unanimous decision. When it comes to like the different fighting styles, you know, Vargas is definitely a boxer. You know what I mean? He uses the good thing about it is he's really big for the division. He has a long frame. He's about 5'10", which is crazy because he came from a lower division at 122. He's at 126 now, but to be 5'10" in that division, and he's good at using his distance and keeping him out. You were listening to Abner Mares, and Abner Mares talked about how he sparred with him, and he's like, man, he keeps me out. He's good at that. Yep. And you know, and he's definitely going to have to do that, you know, against Mark Magsayo, who's going to look to close the distance. Mark Magsayo, he tends to be really good in the mid range. But man, both I see openings for both fighters to be successful. You know what I mean? Yeah. Vargas has a tendency to jump in and just kind of watch his work and leave his, you know, and pause in range with his hands down. And he tends to get caught, and we've seen Magsayo, you know, get caught and drop. So man, it's you know, it's a 50-50 fight.
And those fights we really enjoy to watch. And at that, they're both undefeated. Yeah. And they got a good amount of knockouts as well on their resume. So it's gonna be definitely a good fight to watch.
But yeah, I would say Mark Magsayo has the power advantage, and when it comes to the boxing and the you know, the boxing IQ, I would give that to Vargas. But yeah, even Mark Magsayo, he does kind of, you know, you could definitely see how he has that Manny Pacquiao you know, influence. You know, he's kind of bouncy like Manny Pacquiao, and you know, and kind of talk about, you know, kind of like Manny Pacquiao, he's explosive. I will give him that. I think he's the more explosive out of the two fighters, and he's fast. And he's fast. You know, he's going to have to be in shape. But, man, it's a 50-50 fight. You know, if I have to choose a winner, man.
I can't choose. I don't know. It can go both ways.
Man, I can see it going. Exactly.
It's just whoever does the first mistake, probably.
You know what? I will say this. I would expect, you know, just based on the style, I would like to say Vargas. I think Vargas has the chance to win. I think I'm gonna go with Vargas just for the based on the boxing. I think if he plays it right and he stays disciplined, and you know he keeps him on the end of that jab and he used the ring, that's gonna give him all types of problems. You know, we heard in the press conference, Mark Magsayo was like, oh, you know, if he doesn't run, I just don't. I don't like when fighters say that, because at the end of the day, look, you're in there and fight. You got to cut off the ring. You need to do what you need to do to get to the fighter. You know what I mean? And don't make it like it's running. No, you need to have the skills to be able to get to that fighter. You know what I mean?
We've seen fighters that run.
If you want to call it run,
we've actually seen that, and I don't think Vargas is a runner like that.
He's not.
He's just a little more like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, people's going on, you know, and do what he got to do to get the victory. I don't think he's a runner for sure. But
he's a boxer. He's a boxer. And you know, a lot of people.
He's got the full come forward Mexican style.
But you know, Vargas, he's got, man. Sometimes he gets caught in fighting and he leaves his hands down to be caught. But, you know, he's got good combinations. I mean, both fighters got, you know, good combinations.
And Mark Magsayo, God, he had a nasty-ass knockout in Seja. Like, that was stone cold knockout. Like,
he got power in both hands, too. He got a nice hook. He got a nice hook. So, I mean, it's a 50-50 fight. What more do you want in a boxing fan? You know, you don't know who's really going to win. And it's a pick 'em, really. That's how it feels like to me. Yeah. But I think that overall, you know, I'm going to go with the previous champ. I think that, you know, he's fought better competition aside from Gary Russell, you know, with Mark Magsayo. But, you know, that was for me, that was almost a 50% of Gary Russell. That wasn't, you know, he had an injury and it was, so I don't really, you know, that's how I kind of figured. But, you know, based on that and the experience, you know, I'm going to go ahead and go with the boxer on this one.
Okay, cool.
We'll go with the boxer.
All right, that was my first thought yesterday, going with Vargas, but then today I'm just like, I don't know, y'all.
Yeah, and it kind of
50-50.
And another thing I'm gonna say is another reason why I think that I'm gonna go with Vargas is you know, it was Gary Russell was able to pick up the timing of Magsayo, and you know, from me watching, you know, maybe it kind of looked like you know, sometimes he kind of gets predictable. And it looked like that's how Gary was able to, you know, be as effective because he got the timing of him, and he was catching him on the way in.
Yes,
you know what I mean, with one hand, and he was doubling up the backhand, which is crazy. So I think that there's a strong chance that Vargas can pick up the timing and catch him.
See, that's my thing. I feel like if Magsayo doesn't do a little bit, change it up like he fought with Russell. If he doesn't change it up, I feel like it's leaning towards Vargas. But if he can do some changes to it, he got power and he can, you know, have success in it. But and that's the thing. And then we can go. But then you can go and say, yeah, Mark Magsayo got the athleticism. He got the explosive, and it's like, dang. You know, you hear people talk about his power, and then it's like, dang, how is Vargas going to handle his power when he gets hit? Because he is gonna, he does get hit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So then that could change the fight. So, but I'm gonna go with the boxer. Who you going with? I'm going with the best one of the night that night.
Yes. Oh, you're not going to choose one? Leti?
It's like, I feel like I'm leaning a little more towards Vargas as well. I'm going to have to say that. I'm leaning more towards him. I'm going to go with my first gut instinct that I thought. So if I have to choose, I'm going to lean towards Vargas by like a little bit. Okay, so I'm going by Vargas by decision. And you're going by Vargas by... knockout. No, I'm just kidding. I think it might come to decision as well, yeah.
All right. But yeah, so, I mean, 50-50 fight, like we're saying. Can't wait for this. But that's all we got. So, thanks for tuning in, y'all.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Or talk your shit. And